Earlier on in the summer, I get this email out of the blue asking me to do a TEDx talk. And before I have time to think about it, I watch myself saying yes. I hit reply. And I think, I love TED Talks. I love watching them. I love this whole 361-degree thing. I'm a social work educator. I can memorize stuff. I'm good. Really, I'm good. But I quickly realize I'm not good. I can't write this talk. I start and I stop and I start hiding from the TED people. I start and I stop again, and I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and all I can think about is, why didn't they ask someone who didn't just get braces? All I can think about is, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and the lights will glint softly on my new mouth hardware. But mostly, what I'm thinking about at 4 o'clock in the morning is the fear. The fear of going deep, of showing you what I really think about, what I really do, and the anxiety that shapes my days and nights. Now, Mr. Anxiety, as my brilliant counselor calls him, came to stay when I was a little girl, and pretty much after every shock and loss since, he's taken up a little bit more room in the guest space. He's got the good towels. Now, this is the kind of anxiety, folks, that has had me convinced that the people I love most in the world are about to die, and that I'm going to die. It's seen me back and forth to various emergency rooms and helping professionals and helping modalities. But you know what? I'm okay with Mr. Anxiety now. I know what helps. I know talking about it to all of you helps. I know that not shaming myself is up there. That helps. I know that this white skin and privilege and access to helping stuff, that also helps. And I know that love, being loved, is way up there. That helps too. But what's been really useful as well has been exploring what you all might be thinking when you hear me talking about my mental health stuff. And some of those thoughts might include, man, what kind of meds is this one on? Because she seems to be okay. Or who would want to love her? Wouldn't want to be in a relationship with that one. Or my personal favorite, how did she get this job at Ryerson? And did they know? And folks, I have to tell you that all of those thoughts that you're thinking, and maybe more, are pretty much in line with what we've all been taught to think about people who have mental health stuff, right? We've been taught by our teachers and our educators and our university professors, by our best friends, by our parents, by our faith communities, by our heroes, by TV, by social media, with very few exceptions, one being Plato, who way back when taught that madness was actually a sign of prophecy, and people who were mad knew a lot more than people who weren't. I'm liking Plato. So with those kinds of exceptions, most of us have been taught that when you see mental and health, it's synonymous with a problem. And people who have that mental health stuff and have those problems, we got to be careful. They may be erratic. They might be violent. We got to back the heck up, call the authorities, and hope the problem gets fixed fast. Right? Right. Now, folks, I'm here to tell you that these kinds of teachings are part of a larger belief system. It's old, it's deep, and it's made what I just said pretty much normal, right? There's very few arguments against it. And the arguments aren't taught, and they certainly aren't talked about. But those teachings, folks, have a name, and the name is Sanism. Sanism. What is Sanism? So Sanism is a form of oppression that people with mental health stuff, or who identify it as mad, experience every day in lots of different kinds of ways. But you don't even need a diagnosis to experience Sanism. You just have to look or sound or feel or smell a little bit different than the everyday. Now, like racism, which is another oppression, Sanism might come across as blatant discrimination, as in, I'm sorry, we don't have a job for you anymore now that your stress leave is over. Or what I think is sanism is going to come across more likely in 1,000 everyday insults. General low expectations. Maybe you're not really up to that program. Maybe you should stay home. Maybe you need a little bit more help, right? That grate on you every single day. Now, I have to admit, I didn't come up with sanism. I didn't cook this up in my backyard for the talk. No, the practice of sanism, folks, in the Western world is as old as the hills. Perhaps you've heard of a little thing called the witch hunts. Anyone? Right. Now, for the term, we got to go back 40 years. 40 years ago, Morton Birnbaum coined the term sanism. He was a legal and a medical scholar, and he was worked up about what was happening to his people. We also got to thank Judy on the right-hand side, Judy Chamberlain, and Michael Perlin on the left. And Michael Perlin is also a legal scholar. He's been writing about this stuff for 25 years. And it was when I was reading his 1992 article, and I'm thinking, this is going to be out of date, right? We're not supposed to read research that's more than 2 years old. I don't buy that. So I'm reading his 1992 article, think it's going to be out of date, and it wasn't at all. In fact, nothing had changed. And my pants were blown off, literally, because he started listing what I call, or what he calls, sanist myths. And there are these ideas that we all carry around with each other, and we're taught to carry around, and these are some of them. So that those people over there, are different. That they can't make decisions, they shouldn't be allowed to, about their life. What we see about them on TV is actually true. Insert favorite crime show. And if such a person says no to meds, well, that just confirms all of the above. But the myth that really blew the pants off and across the room was that it's okay for decent, progressive, interesting, lovely people to use pejorative labels to describe people who have mental health stuff. It's okay to use that kind of hate talk when none of you would be dreaming of using that hate talk to describe other kinds of oppressed people. And what kind of hate talk do I mean? I mean this stuff. I mean, oh man, she's crazy. I mean, I don't know what she's talking about, but this lecture is insane. That is psycho. Man, these words, guys, this hate talk is every day. No one's stopping us from using it. But these words, folks, feel, to people like me, they feel like a kick on the shin. And they bruise long, they hurt deep. And we've got layers of bruising all over when we hear these words. Okay, so when I teach sanist myths in class, the first thing I do is to admit how I've been sanist. So when I back up from that dude on the subway who's having a whale of a conversation with himself, that's myth number 2, because consciously I believe him to be dangerous, right? And when I admit how I've been sanist, then I ask my students, what sanist myths do you think you're carrying around with you? How did they get into your backpacks? Who put them there? And do you want to take them out and have a look? So we take them out. And I try and do this with as much love and compassion as I can muster, because I'm not all good and folks are not all bad. And the whole, you're the sanest oppressor, you're keeping me down, you're making me angry, that route wasn't really working at all. People were kind of backing up from me, backing up a little bit more, and that was creating even more sanism. Right? But there's the thing about sanism is when you're too angry, too passionate, too loud, too sad, too emotional, too feminine, too masculine for too long, sanism leaves a question mark in the air about your sanity. It's really sneaky that way. Sneaky, and so sneaky, that sanism had me believing that there was something called normal that I should be working towards, then I needed to keep my anxiety and my mental health stuff under wraps, and that I should be working on something, like anti-stigma campaigns, because those are really hot. Those are really hot in the media right now. People want to look like they're doing anti-stigma. But when I started digging into Sanism, folks, I realized that Sanism is actually the root cause of stigma. Stigma is a symptom of Sanism, this underbelly belief that we all carry around. So why not focus on the Sanism, not the stigma? So when I started to dig into the Sanism, and there's been a lot of digging, and I started to understand that Sanism is a system that makes it okay for us to pick on or make fun of. Oh, it's just a joke, Jen, relax. Discriminate, reject, silence, or be violent towards people with mental health stuff. I started to see that Sanism was everywhere. And it was in my home, it was at dinner with my best girlfriends, it was in the classroom. It was in our belief that somehow someone running with scissors should be shot at by the police. And it's in the helping professions. It's all over the helping professions, especially mine, social work. So when I started to think about social work and Sanism, I started to realize that with the best clinical judgment, with the kindest hearts, with 3 degrees, I can make a good clinical decision at exactly the same time as being sanist. For example, we social workers say to people, yeah, you know what, that medication would be good for you. I support your psychiatrist and ask you to go on that. It's going to level out your mood. It's going to make you easier to be around. Yes, we say that a lot. But you know what? It's also going to add 80 pounds to your frame and put you at risk for sudden heart attack. That's sanism. It's right there. And when we social workers say, well, we're going to call the police because this person's kind of acting out a little bit and we're not sure, they could be dangerous, those police come and pick that person up, they take you to the hospital, you meet the psychiatrist, you get a Form 1. Guess what, folks? You also get a police record. And that police record will haunt you and could prevent you from ever working in social work. That's sanism. And it's not just in the field of social work or any of the helping professions or any of the disciplines. It's in the classroom. So students in the room, when you have a professor who doesn't really want to accommodate you, it's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass. They want to see more and more documentation. They don't really believe what's happening with you. Guess what? That's sanism. Or when the professor says, everyone on the first day, bring your Access Center forms to the front of the room, although they're trying to phase this out, effectively eradicating your privacy and outing you as someone with mental health or disability issues, that's sanism. But this is what I'm happy about. Ontario has a new law called the AODA, and this is new accessibility legislation as of January 2012. This legislation is tracking sanism, responding to sanism, naming sanism. I love it. It's not just me. And I mentioned some of my historic heroes. I also want to name some of my local heroes who are doing the same. People like Eric Fabris, who writes about sanism, the entire School of Disability Studies at Ryerson, they do the same. People like Adil Abdullahi and David Revel, my peer group, the Madvocates, the Mad Student Society, all of these folks are doing what we call now anti-sanist work. And what is anti-sanism, you ask? Okay, in the time I have left, anti-sanism, folks, is a collection of a lot of different responses to sanism, right? We're going to try and do, in the words of one of my favorite TV characters, do the opposite. So, anti-sanism for me is a post-Enlightenment thing. So the Enlightenment is when we elevated, a few hundred years ago now, reason and logic to all-star status. It's when we got all science-y and number-y, and we demoted emotion and feeling and connection. We split them off. Thanks, Descartes, I hate you. We split them off, and we made it not okay to be emotional or feeling or connected, right? So I say do the opposite. Let's elevate emotion and feeling and connection back up with reason and logic. Why not? Anti-sanism is also an intersecting thing. So sanism very rarely exists on its own. It gets attached to racism, it gets attached to sexism, it gets attached to things like transphobia, creating layers of pain, so we got to know that, right? Anti-Sanism is also a connecting thing. So whereas we've been taught that there's us, the rational, and them, the irrational, I say I've never met an irrational person who's not also rational, and a rational person who's not also irrational. False dichotomies, people. Cross the floor, change the pronoun. Let's call us we. And finally, anti-Sanism is about embracing our own madness. Yes, madness, right? So if madness is emotion, emotion is what makes us human. Emotion is our gift. Let's allow ourselves a little emotion. And it may be that you might want to identify as a capital M for MAD, like I do. It might be that you want to join the International Mad Pride Movement, 20 years old now in Toronto. It might be that you want to write for the new field of Mad Studies, and that Mad Matters book is on the right. Or not, right? Or not. It might be you just want to take a step back after this talk, maybe have a coffee, a free fruit, and think, what just happened up there, right? Did she make a little bit more space? Am I thinking about things from a slightly different angle? It might be that you just allow yourself you again, and a whole new set of normals. That's all I got. Thanks.